On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, that's a little more like it, my friend, Mr. Von Doom. The Avs with a very nice win, 6-3 over the Dallas Stars. Let's talk about this one. New episodes of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. I am your host, Chris Maselli, with me as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom. And if you want to get involved in the conversation here, just join our subtext. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, and we get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this podcast. We'll do that a little bit later. We get our subtext crew's thought on this 6-3 win from the Avalanche over the Dallas Stars. So yeah, man, let's dive right into this thing, because it continues to be the season of what Avalanche team are you going to get? And this was the good team. And this is the one where you want to see more of it game after game. This is the consistency of a team that you want to see how they played here. Dallas made it a little bit interesting at the end. And then when the Avs got that, they made it 5-3, and then when the Avs get the final one to make it 6-3, that was pretty much the end of it. But you liked a lot of what the Avs did in this game. Overall thoughts? What do you got?
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. Starting off the game, you didn't know how this was going to go. They're a good team, and altitude was hyping it up. This is the team the Avs are trying to chase. This is a big Central Division matchup. And then you kind of settle in, and then who else ruins the pomp and prestige for this game than none other than Drouin, heavy on the first part of that last name. And you're like, oh, come on. Does it have to be this way? And then it's kind of the typical slog through that first. Then you get the unexpected hero to tie it up before the end of the first and one Casey Mittelstadt. And then we have a good game going through. And that second period was fun. The third was fun. Hey, Wedgwood, welcome back, my friend.
Yep.
This is a good game. And I the whole time through this game, watching the Avs like turn it on and really get going, you're like, my God, where has this team been? And then you're like, is this the Avalanche? Is this just a Minnesota Wild game part 2? What are they going to look like in their game on MLK Day? Like, you run into that because you've been hyped like this before. You've been let down before. And much like you said, like, you don't know which Avs team's going to take the ice every day. This is what you know they could be. This is why when everybody's like, guys, you are so critical of the team, this is how they could play on a night-to-night basis. It's just, this is why the effort is highlighted so much, because you could beat any team like this. And this is what Taze was saying in his press conference. They know they could beat any team in the league. They just have to believe in it and do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you see, early in the game, you're right. The Drouin goal, you're like, oh, come on. Is this what it's going to be tonight? And then for a little while, you had Casey DeSmith like standing on his head.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the Avs this year. It's like under normal circumstances, you get a goalie that makes some saves on you early in the game, and you're like, okay, that's fine. We'll catch up to him sooner or later. But just with this whole up and down season the Avs are having, you don't know if it's like, okay, it's gonna be one of those games where they just can't crack whatever goalie is in there. And then it was even on the power play. That first power play that they had, which, by the way, they scored a power play goal. Let's all give a standing ovation, golf clap there.
Remember where you were.
Yeah. So on the first one, it was McKinnon he gets a really nice pass. I think it was from Drouin. And right in close, and DeSmith makes a great save. So and that's kind of early in the game, but you're like, this is just the way it is for the Avalanche right now. They can't get a power play goal. They're struggling to create really like good looking chances, and they're going to get goalied from Casey DeSmith, who's not having a bad season. I'm just saying, like, it was your backup versus our backup. So right off the bat there, Stars fans are saying like, well, our backup goalie was in net, so was ours. Also, ours was coming off of this was his first game back from an injury and hasn't seen the ice in like 10 games. So that evens itself out. But they like this, like how you're saying, like there's a lot of good in this game. That's where the Avs, once they cracked the code of the Dallas Stars and Casey Smith for this game, it was just like the onslaught came. And not only when they were scoring goal, like there was like 2 or 3 occasions where they scored a goal, and then like the opening, or not opening, the face off following that goal, they had another opportunity like that.
Yeah,
it was 2 occasions I can think of where they could have scored another goal about 10 seconds after the one that they just scored. And that's what you want to see, just the constant, like, okay, we're not backing off of anything. We're going to keep the foot on the accelerator, and we're just going to go. And that's tough to do against a Dallas team. But I thought they played them very well. They made Dallas work for a lot on the defensive side. It's just, we'll get to, individual players in a minute, but just as a whole for the game, this is what I like to see the Avalanche can play, because like you said, that they have this in them. And I don't know if it was they got up because it was Dallas. Could have been that. Could have been because you've been so inconsistent recently. We got to get back on track with that stuff. But this was the game where it just seemed to all come together and like, okay, this is the outline of how we know we can play. Let's continue to do this for the next few games, which are also division games.
Yeah, and see, that's the frustrating thing. And Chris, like, it's a wonderful thing. Like, I try not to get too low on this team because you know what they can be. That holds you here. But I try not to get too high on the team because you remember the Chicago game last week, the Winnipeg game. Like, you lost that. You were down to the Rangers and had to win that game, and then you lost the game to the Oilers. Like, the flip-flopping, it's weird. So you got to try and keep it in balance. So when we're getting critical of the team, remember the highs and the lows, Chicago and this Stars game. This is your thing to keep you kind of in tune. But I agree. Like the Casey Smith start, it felt like they were trying to find their way to not get goalied. And the scoring frequency, it felt like, especially in that second period when the top was really taken off the game, it felt like when they finally got their way through, they kept pushing. They got their toehold, and it felt like they were making amends as a team for those games last week where they could be like, okay, just keep pushing, because, and it got to that point in the third when I think it was 5-3 at the point, and Cale Makar with that last goal, when Dallas did 2 unanswered, you're like, oh God, here we go again. Not again. You're like flashing back to the Rangers game, and then Cale like pushes it the other way, and they sail off. Dallas just kind of gave up from that point, and you ended the game. I like this momentum. I like the scoring ability, even though Nate and Mikko didn't get a goal. You see everybody else getting goals. So, balance that out.
Oh my God. Yeah. We'll talk about the second line in a minute. But even after the Duchesne goal, which came early in the game, a few minutes into the game, I liked how the Avalanche played the rest of that first period. There was a moment in time where Dallas had one. That was the only shot on goal that they had.
Yeah,
was a Duchesne goal for about 15 minutes of that period. They ended up with 7. So they started to started to kind of like turn things a little bit towards the end of the first. But yeah, it was entertaining second period. At least for the Avalanche, you got those, 3 goals, which is great. But
on the power play.
On the power play, yeah, you had a Makar shot from just inside the blue line. His 100th goal of his career, by the way. Drouin gets his 100th goal of his career. How many times does that happen? 2 players both get their 100th goal in the same game.
Yeah, true.
It's funny because after the game, they were just interviewing Drouin about it, and they told him, how's it feel for you and Cale to both get the same? And he joked, he's like, he's played about like half the games I have. And
yeah, I know.
So I liked how they were playing in the first, and you do get those feelings never go away when you're an Avalanche fan of, what this team is capable of, and the way that they were playing in the first, you did but you're right. You don't want to just say because you had a good period you don't want to get too high and just feel like it's going to correct itself, because you threw out some games where it hasn't.
Yeah.
And it's been a grind, and it was just nice to see them kind of turn that corner and really overtake Dallas. And the line that did it, boy, did they have a night between Artturi Lehkonen and Jonathan Drouin and Casey Mittelstadt, who so needed this game. Let's get our break in, and then we come back. We'll talk about those guys specifically. So we'll do that. And of course, our sound check and our subtext people right after this. All right, let's hear from FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5. You get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. We are recording this while that Detroit Commanders game is going on. And did I hear you correctly before we hit record? The Commanders are up by 10 at halftime, sir?
That's correct. 31-21.
31. What a score. I don't know what the over-under is for that thing, but I got to think it's already over at the half.
They used all their best refs in the Kansas City game.
They did. They did. So just visit FanDuel.com. Join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. So, it's the second line that the Avalanche put out. Man, they just could not be stopped in this game between Jonathan Drouin, Artturi Lehkonen, and Casey Mittelstadt. What can you say about, like, they just had, surprisingly, no answer for them. Lehkonen with 2 goals, 2 assists. So he had a 4.9. He was a +4. Where is Drouin? Drouin 1 goal, 2 assists, so 3 points total. He was a +4, and Casey Mittelstadt, a goal, 2 assists, so 3 points total. He was a +3, and he could have had a couple more goals or points, I should say. There was one other goal that it was the pass he made diagonal, like cross ice to was that Lehkonen, that pass that he made?
Oh, yeah.
And then just an unbelievable pass. And that was one of the ones where, like, right after they scored that goal, they had another opportunity, and it was Cale Makar who made that exact same pass to Casey Mittelstadt, and it was just a beautiful save by DeSmith. So he could have had an assist and a goal within 10 seconds of each other. So he could have had a 4-point, maybe 5-point night. He needed this night huge. So between the 3 of them, you got 4 goals, 6 assists between the 2 of them, between the 3 of them for your second line, and a +11. That's just total domination.
Let me spin it for you this way.
No, +10. I'm sorry, +10. Go ahead, yeah.
Your second line got you 10 points, basically 10 points on the second line. Your top line of Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Ross Colton gave you 2.
Yeah, which is okay. I mean, you want more from your top line. I don't think the top line played bad,
but this
was second line domination.
Yeah, it speaks to the depth of this team, and when things are clicking, like what this team could be, why the effort is so frustrating to not just us but the team as well. You can hear it. Like, they know they can do this night after night. And when everything's rolling, like, this is why we said just be patient with Casey Mittelstadt. We know he's going through it a little bit, but you know what he's capable of. This is what you do. This is what you're waiting on, and this is what this team could be easily. And you don't have to have those crazy games where teams come back or you have to fight your way back. If you could have this rolling, a 60-minute game, another thing we preach on all the time, this is what you get. And I loved that second line so much, and I'm curious to see what the Monday matchups are going to look like and what the line combo is going to be. Pretty sure this line is going to stay intact for a while.
Until you get, like, Von Schusten back.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
And then things, switch up a little bit. But they had, between the 3 of them, their Corsi for was 31, and their Corsi against was 8. basically 80% of the shots were from these three. When they took 80% of the shots when they were on the ice. That's just complete domination from your second line against a good second line from Dallas. So, did he need that game? What a game!
And quarterbacking those lines, Cale Makar had 2 points, and Josh Manson had 2 points. That's it when it comes defensively. So Manson on that second line, force feeding, Cale on that top line, like you like that too. Everybody else kind of walked away with a goose egg. That's understandable, but I'm really digging Manson as well. He's got some hustle. He's got some grit. Yeah. Like, I understand he overplays a lot and makes some mistakes, but
a couple stupid penalties from him.
Yeah,
last night,
but
definitely.
That's the thing, when you get the same kind of production out of Mikko Rantanen, when he's doing his thing, you get stupid penalties, and you get the same out of Josh Manson. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I say stupid penalties, but not that they were so like he was out to commit a penalty.
They happen at the wrong time. That the momentum is something that you're trying to fend off, and with Dallas's power play, you really don't want to give them those opportunities.
Right.
So I get that.
Just smart. Just be smarter in situation. Like he got one for just reaching around a guy. You didn't need to do that. You're in position where, like, when that happened, it was in the corner, like behind the net, kind of in the corner, and you're between him and the net. So I don't know why you're kind of reaching around him the way you want. Like, the way you're reaching around him is like over his shoulders. You're gonna get dinged for that. Like, so just. I know it's like a hustle penalty that is getting called for, but just be smarter with where your body is and where your arm is and where your stick is, and you won't get called for that. So,
or you could just send it over the glass and not get called for it too.
Yeah, come on. And the Avs got called for this like a week. I remember the game, but it was only like last week. And they're even our most recent game where that one was a little bit weird. It hit like a camera and then it bounced back in. I don't whatever. But that one was just clear as day. And then you talked about it. So everybody on the ice didn't see that. I don't know. That one was bad, but the Avs did challenge the one goal that Dallas ended up. Well, they had a goal, and then it was reversed. Because they were offsides, and they're offsides by a mile.
Yeah.
and the crappy thing about that is that led to Makar getting hurt. That's where he took that puck off the inside of his foot. So if the call was blown dead when it should have, Makar doesn't get hurt. It looked, whenever you see a guy, get hit by a puck and he's down on the ice, that's going to happen. Usually, these guys are the toughest guys in the world. They'll go back to the bench, maybe take a shift off, just recuperate, and then they're back out there. But when you see the arms around like the trainers and being helped down the hallway, that's when you're like, oh boy. And then when he doesn't come back for the rest of that period, you're like, oh God, no. And I'm not kidding you. The whole time I was thinking, I really hope it's one of those things when they come back from the final commercial break from the intermission and they're, getting ready to start the third period, he's on the bench. I hope it's one of those things.
Yeah.
And it was. And you're like, okay, now let's watch him and how he's skating. And is he skating gingerly? Is it tough to go to that foot to stop? But he looked okay. And he put in that goal to really put the game away. And now it's the thing that we always talk about. How does it feel after you sleep on it? And how you feeling the next day?
That skate is not going to come off till February. He's going to keep that thing laced up, and he is going to drag it around. It is not coming off. And I completely agree with you. And like when he came back to the bench, you're like, maybe he's feeling it out. And then his next shift came up, and then he's out there, and you're watching how he pushes off, and you're like, is he all there? Is he all there? And then that's the one at the end. You're like, okay, cool. He doesn't need all of he can do it on one leg. That's cool. Yeah. We can live with that. But no, and of course, like you worry. Like, and it's been the story of the Avs all season. You get Wedgwood back from an injury. All right, who do we have to give up in return? Like we have to pay the toll somewhere, and we'll see how he feels and if he takes the ice on Monday.
That's not a fair trade-off.
No,
I love you, Wedgwood, but we can't get Wedgwood back and then lose Cale Makar.
Yeah, I know.
But let's talk about Mr. Wedgwood. Let's get our last break in. We'll talk about him and then our subtext people. And of course, our sound check. We'll do that next. All right. Kyle mentioned Scott Wedgewood before the last break. And yeah, this was his first game back after that injury that he sustained a little while ago. And I thought he was fine. Like he gives up those, it was almost like 2 goals that were the same. Like Duchesne goal, and it wasn't Robertson who had the other one. That was almost like the same type of goal. The Duchesne one was just, I know people don't want to give him credit for it. That was a disgustingly good goal. The Duchesne goal.
No, I will not say a word about it.
With that, like those are goals that are like, good Lord, like only guys in the NHL can do that. And then the second one, I mean, Wedgwood got his it went right into like his chest almost, but it just bounced in. And so those were the 2 goals that kind of just, beat him, that are difficult to stop. And then the third one was just kind of craziness in front of him that found its way into the net. But other than that, like he had a really good save. It was a wraparound chance. Can't remember who it was on Dallas. Got his leg out at the last second. I mean, and this is all again from your backup goalie. It's kind of what you want.
And see, and something with Wedgwood and Blackwood, a trait in a goalie that it's foreign to me, and now it's something I have to get used to. The ability to put that leg down and close off the pipe and go from like sealing off behind you. Something Georgie never did. Every shot he would look at face down, hit his knees. But those goalies are so quick, both Wedgwood and Blackwood, on going side to side and closing off those open nets. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm not like, I know Wedgwood gave up 3, 2 of those were on the power play. So, Hey, penalty kill, step up. Like, and we were talking about Manson and the stupid penalties. This is why it's like 2 of the 3 were on the power play. Mm-hmm. Eliminate those chances, 6-1. You're screaming, give us the cup. So I love Wedgwood. I love his puck control. I love his ability to sprawl out and make those saves when you need to. He looked good. Great backup. I feel great about the goalie tandem. And I'm not going to talk about Duchesne's, but he gave up 2 to Robo. He needed those, honestly. He's been kind of quiet this year. So, I mean, you can't fault him for those.
No, I thought he was good overall. So, and after that first period where the Avs gave up 7 shots on goal, Dallas then had 14 in the second, and again, entertaining second. And in the third, they had 8. Colorado had 9. So, kind of like a little bit of a wider open second period. And then the Avs kind of clamped down a little bit. Only gave up 8 shots on goal for him. And so they made it manageable for him. He didn't have to be, I mean, they got 29 shots on goal overall. So that's a good offensive output for Dallas. So they made him work. But a lot of that, half of that came in one period.
Yeah.
So, you're after that period, you collect and you go back out and say like, hey, let's get back to not making life difficult for a goalie. And I thought they did that in the third. They only had, I think 2 high danger shots against. No, 4. I'm lying. 4. The Avs only had 2, I think, on DeSmith. So, but all of those, I want to say, let me check quick, came in the high danger chances in the second and third is where they got their high danger chances. So, yeah, I thought it was good. I thought he was just good. And that's what you want.
Yep.
That's what you want. So,
and this is the way you break down a hot goalie, and instead of getting goalied, because it's one of those, if DeSmith was making those saves, the second period would be a little bit different. Like if he started getting hot, so the Avs scoring at the frequency they did, and Wedgwood locking down when he did, not letting the Duchesne goal like rattle him, especially coming back from injury, huge on the Avalanche part.
Yep. Over on subtext, let's hear what they got to say. Dan, I thought it was a great game. I was a little upset with the 1 shot, 1 goal, especially on the stick of Duchesne. Avs definitely capitalized on a lot of great opportunities. Loved playing with the lead, but started sitting on the edge of my seat as Dallas was gaining momentum in the third. Avalanche held strong. Good guys win. Sound check is I will survive. But he didn't say which one, so I'm going with the cake version because
I was going to say the cake version.
I grew up with cake, so
yep,
that's the one we're going with. Good one. Heather says, awesome to see the team skating well and keeping pace with the Stars. Congrats to Makar and Drouin on their goal milestones and Colton in his game milestone. Now they can relax, recover, and stay healthy. And then she thanks us for bringing the best Avs podcast to the people. That's what we do, Heather.
Well,
that's what we're here for.
How about that?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. Kay says, excellent all-around effort and nice to have a comfortable multi-goal win in a game they desperately needed. All I can really say is thank the gods Cale appears to be okay. Didn't see until the replay that Ben also gave him a shot to the jewels. Yeah. That was, do we expect anything else from Jamie Benn? I look forward to Manson cleaning that dude's clock in a future contest.
Yeah,
which would be the second time he's done that, because that's still like one of my favorite takedowns in the history of the NHL is when Manson just flattened him right on his back a couple years ago. I loved that one. And Kay's sound check is the Beatles getting better.
Ooh, good call.
Yeah.
Really warming up. I'm really warming up to the Beatles here lately. So good call.
I went to go see, I took my kid to see Sonic 3 earlier today. Did you see it?
Not yet.
Okay. There's a really, really funny Beatles reference in there. I won't spoil it for you because my wife and I were laughing out loud, like literally laughing out loud when it happened.
Okay.
Hilarious. If you've seen Sonic 3, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's see. Greg says, great to see the Avs beat the Stars. Very happy about the goals from Makar, Drouin, and Mittelstadt. I'm hoping Makar's not going to be out. The way they were talking, it might be a break. I didn't hear that. I mean, if it was a break, he wouldn't be back out there.
When it's hurting like that, it might be like I was hearing some like possible fracture thing. So again, I'm very curious about the Sunday thing.
I mean, God, if that was broken and he's skating like that's
he didn't sit down the entire when he came back. So
he didn't. You're right. He wouldn't. But wow, we'll see. Soundcheck is Rolling by Limp Bizkit.
Oh,
can't go wrong with that.
God, yes.
Oh man. And last one, Katie, so excited for Mittelstadt to have a nice big game. Been rooting for him really hard, and the second line was so good today. Yeah, man, or ma'am, I should say. God, you get that production from your second line, and you're going to be Limp Bizkit rolling. Yeah.
And man, Limp Bizkit is like my gas station hot dog. You know it's bad for you, but man, every now and then you're like, I want some Limp Bizkit.
Like those bands from the late 90s, early 2000s, like we're at that point where they're making their comeback. Like Creed.
Yeah.
I mean, Creed is all the rage right now.
They're making so much money right now.
It's crazy. So yeah, we've reached that point where there was a point where like you don't listen to those bands because they're not cool anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're a generation past that, and we're welcoming them back.
Welcoming Nickelback, Creed, and Limp Bizkit.
Crazy. So how about us? Well, let's get to our sound check and wrap this thing up. This is where Kyle and I pick one song each that summarizes the most recent game. Put these songs on a playlist over on Spotify, which you can follow along. Search for LOA Soundcheck Volume Number 4 is what these songs go on. So what do you got, sir?
Probably one of the more underrated albums of our time. Business as Usual by Men at Work.
Ooh, okay.
And
I've never been a huge fan, but okay. Go ahead.
Bro.
Yeah, I don't know.
And my fandom for them like went to the moon because of a Scrubs episode. Anyway, great band. Who can it be now? From Men at Work.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because of the,
I love it.
It works twofold because the second line, if you would have told me we're getting 10 points from a line, I would have told you, oh, it's easily Nathan McKinnon and Mika are going off. No, you got it from Mittelstadt, who's been struggling. You got it from Lehkonen, and you got it from Drouin. Like, this is who could it be? And then also the injury troll. You got to pay the troll toll. Wedgwood comes back. Who can it be? Is it going to be Cale? It's you can never relax with an injury return because you know somebody's about to leave.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great pick. That fits perfectly. Mine, this one is directed just to Casey Mittelstadt. This is just for him, and it's by Frank Turner. I'm sure most people know Frank Turner. This big song is that song called "Recovery."
I think so. Yeah.
But he has a song called "Do One," and I'm just going to read the opening chorus or verse for you because, again, right to Casey Mittelstadt's ears. And it goes like this. It says, some people are just going to hate you no matter what you do. So don't waste your time trying to change their minds. Just be a better you. It took me years to learn this, more than I'd like to admit. But through my ups and downs, I figured one thing out. Don't take anyone's fill in the blank.
He copied
and then it just knocks in, and it's like, yeah, oh, like this song is great.
He copied that off my MySpace info page. Like you opened up my MySpace, this is what you would have found.
Yeah, was he your top friend on MySpace?
Yep.
Yeah. So Casey Mittelstadt, that one's for you. Don't listen to everybody out there. Just do one and do you. Yep.
Do one, do Haas.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for today, everybody. So thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated, like always. So we'll be back on, Monday they're playing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that game after that's over. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next week. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys later. And yeah, you just made it through another 24 hours where Sidney Crosby's that much closer to becoming a Colorado Avalanche.
And he roughed Patrick Mahomes too.